So if you've ever had a pet that you love like family, and for you it's been maybe a cat and a dog, well, we're talking today about adding into the family ducks and cows. And my next guest believes that every animal that's put into our lives is truly a gift from God. The book is called Life Lessons Without the Fleas. It's a sweet book. And I want to introduce my next author, Leonard Scott Long. He is grandpa of Cowbell, Marshmellow, and many others. Welcome, Leonard.
Thank you. It's really good to be here. I'm glad I could do this.
It's so nice to have you here. And of course, we're going to be diving in and digging into the love that we have for not just our fur babies, but for our feather babies and our leather babies.
Yeah.
And I love that about this book, that you see the gift of all animals in our lives coming from God. And would you just share about the overall message and expound on that?
Sure. I just, we look at our pets. They're with us all the time, and they do crazy things. And as I watched each of the pets do something, I thought there's a lesson in that. It could be from chewing an electrical cord to eating a pop rock, whatever it is. And those lessons are for us. And we can also learn about the gospel of Jesus Christ through our pets.
They're really simple lessons that you're seeing in everything that they do. Although I have to hear about the pop rocks. Now you really you got me on that. Okay. That's quite the tease. What happened with the pop rocks?
Well, Cowbell, she was always eating stuff off the floor.
And she's the cat.
She's the cat. Okay, yeah, she's the calico. And she was constantly, we'd drop stuff on the floor and she would eat it. And, we didn't care. Well, one day my daughter, Stephanie, dropped a pop rock on our coffee table. And the cat is sniffing and looking, and all of a sudden it licked the pop rock. Well, of course, it popped in her mouth. And the look and expression on her face was priceless. Like, what did I just eat? And what's going to happen to me?
Taking that to a spiritual and a bigger picture, the things that we consume are sometimes not what we expect. And I'm sure that God is looking at the expressions on our faces going, yep. Yep.
Yeah.
We told you.
Yeah. We make poor choices and, things happen.
Sure. But the temptation, it looked so good. It smelled so good.
Yeah.
The final result wasn't so great. Leonard, a big part of this book is being able to share Christ with people. Is that right?
Yes. Yes, ma'am. It sure is. Because that's my goal in life, is to present the gospel, that Christ died for us, that he rose again, and that we can trust him as our personal savior. And, as I look at the pets and think about, just the gift that God gives us, the same way he gives us salvation, and we can accept that gift freely.
It's a sweet message that you're able to share for the smallest of children to the wisest and oldest of us, right?
Right. Yeah. And that's the idea. Give it to anybody who wants to read it and be able to see God through the gospel of Jesus Christ.
One of the things in your book that really caught my attention is that we can use difficulties and bad things that happen to bring good. And so many times we have to suffer and we're on our knees and we're like, this stinks. But difficulties, it can be good for us. And bringing the pets into that world of seeing them and learning lessons is a great aspect.
Yeah. And that was the whole purpose why I wrote the book. I was going through a difficulty, big changes. We decided to homeschool our daughter, which is a huge change. And I needed something while I was waiting for my daughter in class. We would send her to classes a couple days a week. And so I would drive her and I'd have to wait. So I'd go to McDonald's and, get coffee or something and start writing. And I always had a desire to write a book. And so I at first the book was just going to be about Cowbell, but then God just said, okay, you had some other unusual pets. You need to tell about those as well.
That is really interesting because we see stories in our cats and our dogs, but what kind of stories do you see with a duck and with a cow?
Okay, well, with the duck, first of all, it's weird to have a duck as a pet. And I was the only one in my neighborhood that had a duck, and her name was Lucky, or his name was Lucky. And Lucky would follow me around wherever I go. I would walk out in the yard, and being young, I could run. And so I would start running, and that duck would run and follow me. And a lot of times I'd look back and she would fall over and fall on her face and get back up and follow me even further. And I think about Jesus Christ and how, we follow him.
Yeah.
We need to, sometimes we get pulled off into other directions, and sometimes we
fall over. Right?
Yeah. And so as I looked at that duck and I thought back, that duck is a beautiful illustration of just following Christ and being there every step of the way. It was also a hard choice with that duck, because the duck started getting out of his pen and going on the road, and we were afraid it was going to get hit.
Sure.
And so I had to give up the duck and take it to a pond. A friend of mine had a pond. And that was, I remember it was a Sunday night. I was like, oh, I don't want to give up my friend, but it was better for the duck. And so we let the duck in the pond, and, I'd visit once in a while, and pretty soon he wasn't even interested in me anymore.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Ooh. That's a good lesson. And the cow.
Yeah. And the cows, well, we had 3 cows. I worked in an Apache reservation, and we had 3 cows that we used to teach the kids how to farm and things. And it was just meeting their needs daily and going out and making sure they had hay and making sure they were set for the day. And again, it's the same way with God. He just meets our daily needs, and he's always there for us.
Such beauty in the creations that God's given us. And that's really what you're
definitely
trying to capture in the book, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So,
Leonard, thank you so much for being part of this and for sharing your incredible book. What is your overall hope and the goals of this book?
Just so that people can get some enjoyment in life, and to see the lessons. God has created all these things for a purpose. And that if we look at the little things, there's lessons in those. Jesus was the master teacher, and he took a story about a lost sheep and made a parable about it. So that's my desire, is to see people look at life through the eyes of God, and what lessons is God going to teach us.
We just need to be quiet and still enough to recognize them.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the great things that your book encourages. So again, you can find out more about how to purchase the book. Leonard, why don't you share with your website? If we're looking at the video right now, we can see that. But if you're listening on the radio, what would that site be?
Well, they can go on Amazon. They can go at any Barnes and Noble and purchase the book there, or they can go on Zulon Press. They sell them as well.
Very good. And again, Leonard Scott Long, the book is Life Lessons Without the Fleas. Leonard, thanks for being here today. And I hope that your book just goes crazy and flies off the shelves.
I do too.
Have a great day.
Thanks. You too.